Nico, can you hear me? It's Sharon Bronson.
Audio is loud and clear. Thank you.
Nico, can you hear me? Your microphone is muted.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're loud and clear.
Sharon Bronson.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Hi, Nico. It's Adelita. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nico, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Supervisor Grijalva, can you hear me?
I can.
I can't hear you. Well, let's see what's going on.
Hello?
Loud and clear?
Okay, perfect. Your video's okay?
Yep, video's fine. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Looks like we have a quorum. I only see Supervisor Grijalva and Supervisor Scott. Miss Lesher and Melissa. And it is 9 a.m. We do have a quorum. So I'm going to ask, what's the pleasure of the board members? Should we begin the meeting?
Yes.
All right. Then I'm going to call to order our special meeting of Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. Okay. I just got a note that Steve Christie is unable to log in. So, Nico, can you see if we can fix that? In the meantime, I've called the meeting to order. Let's do a quick roll call while we wait for Supervisor Christie to get online.
Okay. Supervisor Christie. Yeah. Supervisor Grijalva. Here. Supervisor Hines.
Present.
Supervisor Scott.
Here.
Chair Bronson.
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Christie is not connected. All other board members are present. This meeting is being conducted virtually.
And for the record, Supervisor Christie is trying to connect. So we'll see when he gets here. Okay, rather than rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, let's just do the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Scott, will you lead us?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll move to the land acknowledgement statement to be offered today by Kelsey Yoni Webb, who is a Special Staff Assistant, Senior REACH Program, Pima County Health Department. Is Kelsey joining us? Oh, there you are. Proceed with the land acknowledgement statement.
Hello, jag Kelsey Yani Yanishia. Klashta Ednishlin, Tashidina Ebashashin, Kiani Dashache, Tatnizani Dashanella. Hello, I am a member of the Navajo Nation tribe, and I am from Flagstaff, Arizona, but I've been living in Tucson ever since I started college in 2013. So what I currently do, I'm a special staff assistant senior for the REACH program, which is the Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health at the Pima County Health Department. And so I've been working in public health for the past 5 years. And I'm excited to do a land acknowledgement, just to acknowledge the tribes that are here in the Pima County area. So I would like to honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of this land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the multi-millennial presence of the Pasquayaki tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive towards building an equal partner relationships with Arizona tribal nations. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's then move to item 4 on our agenda, which is the canvass pursuant to ARS Section 16642A, canvass of election results for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Our civil attorney, Deputy County Attorney Samuel Brown has joined us. Mr. Brown, do you want to perhaps talk a little bit about the statute and why we are doing this?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, good morning. The board, the Pima County Governing Board is required by Arizona statute to meet and canvass the election not less than 6 days following an election, nor more than 20 days following an election. So there's a window. The election, as you know, was held on November 8th, 14 days ago. So the board is within that statutory window, which closes next Monday, November 28th. This is a ministerial act. It is required by statute that you all meet and canvass the election within this statutory window. And if there are any further questions, I can answer either now or as we go through the process.
Does anybody have questions for Mr. Brown? All right, then let's move on to the canvass. Mr. Brown, then our action is just pursuant to the statute to approve the canvass. Is that correct?
Correct, Madam Chair, pursuant to ARS 16642A.
And I believe, and Ms. Lesher, correct me if I'm not accurate, that we did get certification from our elections director. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, we did, and it is the certification came for the equipment, as you recall, prior to the primary, and was certified and a basis for when we canvassed the primary election as well.
Right. So what's the pleasure of the board on this item?
Chair Bronson?
Supervisor Grijalva.
I'd like to move the approval of the canvass.
Second.
I can't remember. Was it Matt or Supervisor Hines? Or
Supervisor Hines.
Supervisor Hines. Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Scott.
Thank you. I realize this is a ministerial action, but I think it's important for the public to know that our elections in Pima County in November and August were conducted safely, securely, fairly, and efficiently. I really want to offer my congratulations and thanks to Ms. Hargrove, her staff, and all of our election volunteers. And I think all of us have been getting emails into our offices talking about the certification of our machines. That was a question that I asked Ms. Hargrove to address for the board. She sent a memorandum to us some time ago, and for the interest of the public, that memorandum is posted on the District 1 website if anybody wants to review it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I think it's posted on the Pima County website as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And again, just as a reminder, the elections director has indicated via memo that all the votes are counted at this point. So, which is why we are now addressing this issue, approving the
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Although Mr. Brown referred in the statute to our duties as to approving the canvass, could he also speak to who is ultimately responsible for certifying the election results and when that is done?
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, Did I interrupt you? Are you? No, okay. Melissa, you had something you wanted to say, I think.
Yes, I believe Supervisor Christie is trying to call in. Supervisor Christie, are you connected? Nico, is Supervisor Christie connected telephonically?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
So let the record show all board members are present. Supervisor Christie had some difficulties connected, but is now connected. There's a motion on the floor to approve the canvas.
Madam Chair?
Get his iPad to work.
Supervisor Christie.
Yes. Before we go to the vote, could I ask some questions? I didn't have a chance to. I was trying to connect.
Proceed.
First of all, are we in violation of any open meeting laws since we do not have, since we did not receive the canvas in today's agenda background?
Board Chair, I can answer that. Board members, no, we've analyzed the board agenda item. It does describe with sufficient detail what is to be discussed and what is to be voted on today.
Okay, and another question. Are we in violation of any open meeting laws by not holding call to the public?
No, that is discretionary for the board. That is not required. Board Chair and Supervisor Christie.
Madam Chair, I would like to move to install call to the public, please.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Yeah. And Madam Chair, then if that dies but for lack of a second, may I ask that all public comments be read by the clerk of the board?
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we
proceed, Supervisor Christie.
I understand. I understand Supervisor Scott had a statement today. I'd like to make a statement as well.
All right, and I think our clerk was going to indicate that we are publishing all of the comments on our website. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair. Also, too, our department did receive the official canvas from the Elections Department yesterday. It was sent out as additional material yesterday afternoon.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I proceed with a statement?
Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The election issues surrounding this 2022 cycle are numerous and troubling. First of all, why does elections show 705,072 registered voters, and the recorder shows 639,885 registered voters? How does that work? Is there anyone available to answer that right now?
I'm sure that we can get that if the elections director were here, but she's not. But we'll certainly direct your questions to the appropriate individual within Pima County.
I appreciate that, and of course I'd like them as soon as possible. Going on with my statement, second issue is, how can this Board of Supervisors this morning certify or not certify a canvas of almost 3,000 pages that was not made available in a timely fashion before this morning's meeting was set to convene? It is irresponsible that we are given less than 24 hours to review a 2,800-page document. It almost appeared that we had the necessary time to have to certify the canvas to see what's in it. Third, it is no secret that the Pima County Recorder, Ms. Cesaris Kelly, was actively electioneering on behalf of Congressman Raul Grijalva and other Democrat candidates. Her activities in this regard all took place during an election cycle in which Ms. Cesaris Kelly has official oversight in her capacity as Pima County Recorder. This type of unprofessional behavior from an elected official entrusted with the most significant role in the conduct of Pima County's elections, is not only partisan, but it is divisive and damaging to voters' faith in our election, especially when voters know that Recorder Cesaris Kelly had complete access at all times to every layer of election activity in Pima County during this election. Third, and this item is the number one focus of my concerns with certifying the canvass in Pima County, and it is that the current Secretary of State, Ms. Katie Hobbs, potentially has acted in violation of numerous statutes and regulations which govern conduct.
I'm sorry. You don't interrupt the speaker. Continue, Supervisor Christie.
I'm glad that's the rule now.
Well, it's always been the rule. Proceed, Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Potentially has acted in violation of numerous statutes and regulations which govern conduct related to conflict of interest of State of Arizona officers and employees. Ms. Hobbs is an incumbent in the office of Secretary of State, and as we all know, is the Democrat nominee for the office of Governor. Ms. Hobbs, I believe, is acting in direct conflict with state statutes and regulations and has a substantial interest in the outcome of this election. Ms. Hobbs has chosen not to recuse herself from her duties of Office of Secretary of State, including the duty of certifying her very own election. Further, Ms. Hobbs, as Secretary of State, authored in 2019 the Elections Procedures Manual for the State of Arizona, and in 2020, she oversaw the highly contentious and troubled elections that still provoke controversy today. Additionally, in her unrecused role as Secretary of State, Ms. Hobbs had complete access to all voter and election procedures, tabulations, and results at every and at all level of elections, including Pima counties. And as the unrecused Secretary of State, she has the ultimate opportunity to certify her very own election for governor. As a sitting, duly elected Pima County Supervisor, if I voted upon any agenda item that I had a substantial interest in its outcome and not recusing myself, I would be subject to numerous sanctions of violations. No one is above statutes and regulations of the state of Arizona. It should be noted that not very long ago, a sitting Arizona Secretary of State completely recused himself so he could legitimately run for governor. We need to know now if by not recusing herself, did Ms. Hobbs act in accordance with state regulations? I would like to request that the Pima County Attorney, as well as the Attorney General of the state of Arizona, issue an opinion as to the actions of Ms. Hobbs, the Secretary of State, in this matter. I am requesting as well that both offices render a determination based on what relief can be afforded to the voters of Pima County and the state of Arizona. Until we have answers to these questions and answers to many other questions, I will be voting no and against certifying the canvass for Pima County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie. Supervisor Hines.
Sure, Bronson, thank you. Supervisor Christie, I would just make sure that we're aware that you're talking about the governor-elect, not just the Secretary of State, and that in the state of Georgia, as I recall, in 2018, the then Secretary of State, who threw tens of thousands of voters off the rolls, I think in very, very concerning circumstances, was running for governor, certified his own election when he actually became governor-elect himself. So there's nothing wrong with what Governor-elect Hobbs is doing in her role as Secretary of State. She has to do that, and I, for one, will be voting yes to approve the canvass.
Thank you, Supervisor Hines. Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Scott.
Thank you. Right before Supervisor Christie logged in telephonically, I posed a question to Mr. Brown. We are fulfilling our statutory responsibility by voting to certify the canvass prior to November 28th. But could he, for the public's knowledge, let them know what happens after counties certify their canvasses? And
by he, you mean Mr. Brown?
Yes. And who ultimately votes to certify the election results for the state?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, if I understand the question, all 15 counties must certify their elections by November 28th. The Secretary of State's office then certifies the statewide results by December 5th.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, doesn't the governor and the Attorney General also have a role in that certification?
I'm not sure about the specific role of the governor and the Attorney General.
My understanding was that the three of them had to vote to certify the results because all three of them did so in 2020, and I just wanted to clarify that process for the public that's tuned into the meeting.
And I think you're correct, but also just for the record, there will be a recount of the Attorney General's race because it's so close, and that's statutorily required.
And if I may clarify, now that I understand the question, Madam Chair, the governor and the Attorney General do have a role. Supervisor Scott, I can't explain that specific role right now, but they do have a role. You are correct.
All right. If there's no further discussion, roll call.
This is for the approval of the canvas. Supervisor Christie.
No.
Supervisor Grijalva.
Yes.
Supervisor Hines.
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
Yes.
Chair Bronson.
Yes, by your vote of 4-1, motion carries. There being no other business, this meeting stands adjourned. And everybody have a safe and good holiday. And we'll see you, I think, December 6th is our next meeting. Thank you all for joining. And again, stay safe. And remember, if you eat too much, you're going to have to work out.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, everybody. Thank you.